Chutes and Ladders, 5 years in review of AEW. Hey, everyone. My name is Jason.
I'm Desiree Josen.
All right. So today we're actually going to do a review of the last 5 years of AEW, where they are now, what could they fix, what are they doing well, and just an overall kind of state of the union. First off, listen, we made it 5 years. Honestly, this flew by. There's a lot that's happened these 5 years.
I am a big fan of AEW. I know they are brand new and sometimes they do get a bad rap, and there are things they do right and then there are things that they do wrong. And that's what I love about this episode is we're going to be able to speak our minds as fans, and especially with them being local here in Jacksonville and me going to a handful of their shows, I have a lot to say about what has happened in the past 5 years, but I'm hopeful.
Absolutely. All right. First topic for us would be number of PLEs. We actually just did an episode on WWE and the amount of PLEs. What are your thoughts on the number of PLEs like that they have right now, and what is an ideal number that you think they should carry?
I really, and the same like we did in the past episode for WWE, I don't feel like we need them all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel like with AEW, I don't know if it's just because things are flying by and the year is going by quicker, but I feel like there is a number of pay-per-views for them, and then some of them are like back to back, which I don't like about All In and All Out. That really threw me off.
Just about to say that was a huge, colossal mistake. It made no sense. You cannot have a PLE if you can't build anything up. No one knew what the card was, and the wrestlers probably didn't know either because there was nothing to set up.
And I get one was in London, and that should have been the main one. And then I know they like to do something following in Chicago, which makes sense, which was All Out. But it just didn't make sense to us, or at least for both of us as fans, to do something like that when I felt like those would have been really great Dynamite matches.
Yeah, 100%. So again, I'm going to actually run with the same number. I think they should have 6 PLEs once every 2 months. If WWE drops it to 6 PLEs, the ideal world for all wrestling fan is that AEW would have a PLE on the months WWE doesn't. So you would actually have a PLE a month for both promotions. I think that would actually just be smart, so you wouldn't have to compete with each other.
And I think that's fair because those are the two that are heavily televised compared to the other promotions. So I think that would only make sense for us fans to be able to, I guess, carry along with both promotions lines creatively, but also we won't be I guess exhausted, like there, it wouldn't be a fan exhaustion of matches. And for their PLEs for AEW, we don't need a 0 hour of matches. If we do, let's do one.
Yes, correct.
I really appreciate you wanting to utilize your roster and let them feel involved. However, if it has nothing to do with our top, let's say 5 or 6 storylines, let's hold off and use those for Dynamite and Collision, maybe Rampage. But but we don't need that, and we also don't need like 8 to 12 matches. We don't need 3-4 hour long shows. I think we are good at a good 5, maybe 6 or 7 main event matches, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't agree anymore. You've actually transitioned nicely to the next topic of conversation, and that is the size of the roster as opposed to the actual utilization of the roster. I've mentioned this before on previous podcasts. I know you have as well. So if you're going to spend a couple $100,000 per wrestler and you're not doing anything with them, the wrestlers are cool. Let them sit back and put cat paycheck. But from a creative standpoint, why? This makes no sense. This actually kind of couples with the whole argument of, wait a minute, maybe you do have too many PLEs. In addition, I'm going to double down, and I'm going to bring this out there right now. I personally think, since given where they are in their life cycle, I think you only need 1 2 hour show per week. I actually don't think you need a Saturday show. I think it's silly to go head to head, especially right now against college football. I think it's silly. And or you're going against WWE's PLE. And I don't think that's smart either. So I think you have 1 2 hour show. I think Wednesday is perfect. And this way you can actually get more bang for your buck on your roster. We may have different opinions on this, which is fine, but that's how I generally feel.
I love Dynamite. I love that they're on a Wednesday night. It's in the middle of the week. It does not fall anywhere near a Raw or a SmackDown. I think that is the perfect placement. Let's keep that. And it's 2 hours. And that is my favorite thing to watch on Wednesday nights, besides the challenge. But the I think we should get rid of Rampage altogether. People aren't home, they're doing other things, or they're exhausted and trying to just get their life back together for the weekend. I think it works. It does get in the way of other things, but I still watched it last night. I tuned in and watched Collision. So I think it's okay for now. Is because I feel like they can split the roster like how they do Raw and SmackDown. So I think that's fine. I think their roster is heavily saturated. I feel like it's the biggest waste of money. Yes, there are people that are in high rotation, but that's it. And we get tired of seeing the same champions or the same thing that goes on. I counted it. I think it's around 150 and 160 on the AEW roster. Granted, some of them are part of Ring of Honor, but that's not all of Ring of Honor. And they're part of New Japan.
Wow.
That they bring on. So it's a lot. And I look at it this way. You are also investing in this talent, the legacy of your name for a promotion, and you're not going to do this for a couple of years. I feel like they need to really heavily invest on creative and maybe break it down to maybe 50 or 60% of the roster and really go hard.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a fair assessment. I personally believe that everything you just said is valid, and to have that many wrestlers on a roster, it is impossible to have storylines for everyone. So if anything, you're going to have a couple squash guys, but do you really need to pay a couple $100,000 to have someone get squashed? That doesn't make any sense.
No.
All right. Okay. Next topic of discussion. We've actually talked about this before. I'm really glad we're bringing this up now, is signing some of these big name free agents and what their role has been with the company. Now, there's a various amount of guys that, to be honest, you've catapulted a career, mainly Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes would not be a main event guy in WWE if it wasn't for AEW. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But some of these other guys that they've signed to kind of maybe give them a jolt or maybe to give them more credibility, I think has been a big mistake. I really don't see, I don't see the validation for it. So who are some of these names that you liked and disliked in this process?
Well, a lot of them we're familiar with. It's like Christian and Edge. Edge is a big one for me because I always think of Edge as a WWE guy. And, when we heard the rumors of him jumping over to AEW, I'm like, okay, cool. He's going to be, he does. But when he came, it was a big pop. And then now, where is he?
Yeah.
And that's how I feel with Christian. I think Christian has had a lot of fun creatively on this. He is a really great heel for AEW, but he's older now. He doesn't need to prove or hold a title because we already know he's fantastic at what he does. Even Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
They don't need to be carrying a title. There's no need for a title run. I think you need to show face, bring a really great promo. You should be in the back of these new guys, pushing them and helping put them over rather than try to put yourselves over one more time. So I don't know if it's an ego thing or they're getting so close to retirement, they just want to hold on one more time. I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm 1,000,000% with you. The guys you just mentioned, and keep in mind, these guys have been wrestling since the 90s.
Yeah.
So these guys are older. It's kind of like the equivalent of when Ric Flair was giving his last hurrah, and like a lot of us are like, "Oh, come on, bro! You really shouldn't be doing this at this age." This is
Yeah,
also for their safety, And
yeah,
obviously, there's a lot of these injuries have been well documented, and I'm actually very happy for Brian Danielson that he's actually he's decided to make that he decided that it's time for him to kind of hang it up. I think the
yeah.
same thing should apply to all these guys. So this actually kind of rolls into the next topic of, in my humble opinion, AEW really should be for the guys that are just trying to make a name for himself, the guys that are
Okay.
younger. Because when I think of AEW, I think of young guys that are hungry, that are trying to make it, and it's built on the
Mhm.
athleticism. Well, when you get guys that are that much older and they're basically the proven vets, I understand the whole point of notoriety, but they can't physically do the same things anymore. And they definitely can. They never really had, a lot of them never had the athleticism that some of these young guys do. So I am all for AEW doing something completely different, which is focusing on the athleticism, both the guys and the girls, and having everyone young. If no one knows who these guys are, that's fine.
Yeah,
Wrestling fans are wrestling fans. I mean, wrestling fans love independent shows for that reason. We don't know
yeah.
who these independent guys are. It doesn't matter. These guys are basically independent, but now they have TV time, so we're going to know who they are. So you build them up creatively. This is your job to kind of, take these characters and elevate them, even if we don't know them before. So that's my thought on that.
100% agree. I've always said this. I'm like, they are still brand new. They're still a new company. It's only 5 years old, and they're still trying to get their feet wet and really figure things what works and what doesn't. But I 100% agree that I feel like this should be where a lot of the newer wrestlers start, work on their promo skills and even just get comfortable performing in larger crowds. And that's one thing I can say positively going back to the older vets, would be Billy Gunn. Um, I love him so much. And I feel like he's very underrated, especially right now. He's in fantastic shape. And he takes a back seat. Yeah, he'll make appearances in the ring and we'll do like a trio or a tag match, but he more or less wants to show the newer guys. He's fully aware of his age and does very minimal, makes enough to bring a pop to push other people, but knows where he is. So it's like he's got that self-awareness. And but yeah, I just feel like the newer wrestlers really need to shine. And what's funny is if you go to an NXT or a WWE audition, a lot of them will say, go make a name for yourself somewhere else, get a little bit more experience, go to AEW.
Correct. And again, not that I don't want to degrade them and call them a quote unquote minor league, but to a degree,
No,
it kind of serves that purpose. But I mean, look, they're still going to get paid and they're still going to get TV time. So I think this is actually the best way to kind of get there.
agreed.
Cool. All right. This one is going to be a little controversial for a lot of people. The next topic is Tony Khan's role. Tony Khan obviously has the money. He has a lot of money. Obviously, his father owns the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're multimillionaires. He's having fun. Look, I kind of compared him with Jerry Jones. They want to win. They want to be successful. They have no problem spending the money. But like Jerry Jones, when it comes to making the day-to-day up like decisions, maybe you should hire someone to do that for you while you step away. And that's why I generally feel what his role should be. What do you think about that?
We know that Tony Khan is a huge fan of wrestling, a mark for the Attitude Era, basically. So I get it. And I feel like he does not have boundaries.
I mean, look, this happens in sports all the time. When you're an owner, you get too involved, which
Yeah.
not is not necessarily a good thing. And I genuinely, from out of my heart, think, hey, look, he wants to win. He wants to be successful. I know he's a huge fan, but fund the project, but pay someone, be confident in their abilities, and let them run into success with you. So
Yeah.
that's really what I feel.
Yeah. I mean, he's got potential. I know he likes to be in the ring. He likes to cut his own little promos. He does it a lot when we're in Jacksonville. He'll come out. Even his dad made an appearance after he got like tombstoned. So it was great, but I was just like dying laughing. I was like, this guy is just loving life right now. And I'm jealous.
Now, next topic we're going to touch on. Do you see AEW lasting another 5 years? I actually have my opinion, but I want to hear yours first.
Um, said in the very beginning, I am hopeful. I really do. A lot of it is because I know that he has the money to do it. I feel like that's going to make a big impact on it. So, yes, I think it's going to be 5 years. Do I think that they're going to be ever, are they going to match WWE? No. When it comes to their live shows, let's fix the pricing. A couple of years ago, I have always sat ringside, and those prices are at the time were very fair and reasonable because of what I got. For the past year, they have pretty much doubled, a little bit tripled. And compared to what I bought, my ticket, I had front row Raw. I got a lot of great perks. And what AEW was asking for a taping was ridiculous. And so I ended up getting a seat right in the center, right behind that. But it was an embarrassing amount of money that I paid. And when I sat down, the place wasn't filled, and which really made me mad. They were bringing people that paid maybe $20, $50 when I paid a couple of $100 to sit in front of me. So that made me mad.
I love it. This is why we call this Shoots and Ladders. So my answer, no, I don't think so. And the reason why, and the main reason why is because of what you just said. Look, you actually, what you just said actually swayed me because I was going back and forth. I was going to say yes, maybe because, TNA kind of had a similar run. They did it for 10 years. So if anything, I think AEW will be similar to TNA. TNA exists, but not really. And that's the path they're headed. And I say that because of what you just said. And when I say that, because you're spending a couple $100,000 per wrestler. You got a lot of people don't realize I worked in television for 7 years. Creating television is actually very expensive. It's not cheap. So with distribution has now changed. Distribution is no longer through cable. Now it's going to be through streaming services. We may get to a point where they're only on the Max app. Well, that's going to change the game. And what I mean by that is you have to have a certain amount of views. And if you don't, they're going to scrap you. So we're actually in a much, much, much more quantitative value, if you will. So if you don't hit those numbers, so when you're on cable, you can kind of slide by because Nielsen ratings are a little bit murky. Yeah. You're not going to have that same type of privilege. Now, the only way you can make that up, because again, does he have the money? Yeah, but does his family want to lose that much money month after month? The answer is no. So they have to charge what they charge, to kind of, recoup, to kind of recruit. Yeah. Yeah. They have to charge what they have to charge because most people, like a lot of people don't realize this. Television, movies, you actually lose money. Most of the time you don't make money. So like for tickets and stuff like that. So now the bulk of where you actually, make your revenue is actually on the weekly programming. And I know they just renegotiated their contract. The numbers really haven't been said. I don't know if it's that favorable. It probably isn't. And now having the PLEs on the Max app, which they desperately need to do,
yes,
is going to help. But remember, even I didn't look up the buy rates, but it couldn't have been that high. So all this being said, not because of the talent or creative or anything like that, why I think that I don't see them surviving. It's a dollars game. And I don't think they're going to turn a profit. So that's my take.
Damn. Well, it's business.
So that wraps up this episode. This is a very action-packed episode. Please chime in. What are your thoughts? Will AEW survive? What are they doing well? What do they need to fix? Please DM us at the Shoots and Ladders. Please like, share, and subscribe. Once again, my name is Jason.
I'm Desiree Josen.
All right, listen, until next time, have a wonderful day.
Bye, friends.